So welcome to the Marathon des Sables behind the scenes docuseries. I probably should start by offering you a little bit of information about what the Marathon des Sables is, and I'm going to refer to it as the MDS because it's fucking easier, and I'm not actually sure if I'm pronouncing it right in the first place, right? So we're going to talk about the MDS. What actually is it? The MDS is marketed and definitely has reasonable stake to the claim that it's the toughest foot race on earth. It's a self-supported, i.e. you carry all your own food, water and kit, 250 kilometers across the Sahara Desert, whereby temperatures can get in excess of 55 degrees Celsius. And I have no idea what the equivalency is into Fahrenheit, but it's considerably warm. So that's what the Marathon des Sables is. The entire aim of this docuseries is essentially to document, to showcase the training, the psychology, the lifestyle, and the reality of preparing for an event of this magnitude. Now, I've been preparing for months leading up to this, but you didn't really want to be seeing me running in the dark through the winter months of the UK, if I'm brutally honest. So we're specifically honing in on roughly the last 14 weeks or 4 months of preparatory efforts in advance of that. And what we hope to show you, as I've already kind of pointed towards, is the actual realities of that. So the very next logical question I get from most people is why the MDS? Why do it in the first instance? From my perspective and my position, and anyone who's done ultra races, extreme marathons, or any event of extreme nature, you don't necessarily expect for other people to understand what it is that drives us to doing that. And for me, it wasn't until I actually had a conversation with a trusted mentor of mine, Kieran, who's a phenomenal guy, that I understood that self-mastery is actually one of my highest values. For the longest time, I thought it was health and fitness, so on and so forth, and they're definitely up there in the top 3, but actually self-mastery is one of my highest virtues. So what does that mean? It means that I have an inherent intrigue and curiosity about what is possible, what I am capable of, and essentially that turns up in my life as a question of, well, why not me? Why can't it be done? What could stop me? I wanted to explore something that is going to force me to ask questions of myself. A lot of people speak to the concept of self-belief, but I actually believe that self-belief is relatively fragile. If you're operating on a sense of blind self-belief, sooner or later you're going to meet a person, an event, or a thing that is going to make you question yourself. And if you're questioning yourself for the first time under extreme stress and duress, largely you're going to break. We know that rigid things break. So I want to put myself in an environment whereby I'm forced to ask questions of myself. And the honest answer is, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm going to be ready. I don't know how my mind is going to deal with that because I haven't been there, I haven't done it yet. I'm confident in how I'm preparing, which is why I'm showcasing this. But ultimately, what I want to transmit across the entire of this docuseries is not that I'm superhuman, not that I'm better than anybody. In fact, the total opposite. I am absolutely mediocre in almost everything I've ever done. But it's about cultivating a mindset that is not fearful of fucking around and finding out, and having that naivety to start, but the curiosity as to what would happen if you don't quit. And on this event, throughout this training process, there has definitely been times when I've been forced to ask questions of myself. Am I fit enough? Am I the kind of person who will do this? And it's in those moments where you're having to reflect and you're having to really look inside yourself that you learn so much about yourself. And this is the ethos, this is the philosophy, this is the modus operandi of everything we do in the Hard to Kill program. And that marries so neatly as to why I intrinsically want to do it and why I'm choosing to showcase and to document this. I'm not doing it for fame. I'm not doing it for self-proclamation. I'm not doing it for self-serving reasons. I'm simply doing it to showcase that I'm an individual who had very challenging background upbringing, who had nothing necessarily specialist about me from an athletic perspective. I'm not the guy who was jacked when he was like fucking 12 years old. I'm not the guy who did any of those things. I'm simply an individual who has found a way to consistently ask questions of myself and engineer frameworks and thought processes that have allowed me a way to keep going in the moment. And having done a magnitude of quite difficult things in my life, having now achieved a degree of business success, which is nowhere near where we aspire to be, but having gained some momentum, I wanted to do something that was of a magnitude that would force me to ask questions of myself and also could be used as, I guess, an example. I guess as a point of inspiration for myself and to others, that it doesn't matter how fit you perceive you are, it doesn't matter what background you have, it doesn't matter what success you've already achieved. If you want to grow, if you want to achieve true fulfillment, and in my humble opinion, true success, you have to continue to put yourself outside of your comfort zone in a way that forces you to ask questions of yourself. Not because you know that you can, not because you believe that you can, but because you have the self-security, because you've cultivated a mind that has the confidence to say, well, let's find out. I believe in what I'm doing. I trust my training, and I now am ready and willing to put myself in an environment where I'm forced to ask ultimate, deep, reflective, insightful questions about who I am and what it is that I'm truly capable of. And in doing so, in documenting all of that, I hope to communicate the benefits of doing so. I hope to inspire at least even one fucking person that you are not made of glass, that just because you might not have had the best start, just because you feel like you've hit a plateau, just because you feel like you've wasted a bit of time, or any of those kind of distortions, just because that might be the case, it is nothing on your ability to get up, to keep going, to move forward, to attack, to be defiant, courageous, and resilient in the pursuit of what it is that you inherently want. And that is everything that this series is about. And I also want to identify that I'm not taking 14 weeks off work. I run a business, the Hard to Kill program, some of you may be familiar with, that is full of some of the highest performing individuals on the face of this earth. For me to take 14 weeks off is absolutely categorically out of the question, inappropriate and non-feasible. So I am working full-time alongside this. I am training full-time along this. I'm studying full-time along this. And that is the value of what I want to talk about. I'm not a professional athlete. If I was, I'd be fucking terrible. I'm not a corporate wanker. Again, if I was, I wouldn't be preparing appropriately for this. For me, it is the embodiment of the Hard to Kill ethos. It's everything that we talk about, everything that we coach, that we educate individuals on, which is mastery, a relentless pursuit of it. Not spinning plates and just hoping that none drop, but being able to assume that position of leadership, of self-leadership, to take that condor moment, to have the 30,000 foot perspective, to achieve excellence and consistent, sustainable progress across multifactorial fields in your life, from professionalism, to having high quality standards of relationships and emoting and relating, to having physical dominance. And how do we pursue those concurrently? How do we manage our time? How do we nourish our body? How do we set up our training? How do we think? How do we live? How do we orchestrate? How do we administrate ourselves to really go after what I perceive to be peak performance? And ultimately, that is what I want to transmit. That is what I want to communicate. And if you've got this far and listening to me waffle, then I think you're going to really enjoy this series. So this morning, easy run, not necessarily the best one for filming, but we've got a 30-minute recovery run. Reason and rationale being, tomorrow I've got a trail half marathon up in Darlington, Hampstead Forest, I believe, and I'd quite like to get around that pretty quickly. So to that extent, nothing fucking crazy today. Actually trying out some new trainers. Not sponsor affiliated anyway, by the way, but long story short, when you're doing the Marathon des Sables, one thing that is not known by a lot of people is you actually have to have your trainers tailored. So I'm going to try these out, see how they fit, see if they're comfortable, and if they are, and they are the one, then basically you'll be sent away to a guy in London who has to mount Velcro on these to then put a gate around the top, and that's what you'll see when you see these images of the MDS, people running with weird things, concoctions on their trainers. It literally just is a gaiter based on how fine and coarse that sand is. If you don't have it, you'll be pulled off the race within minutes due to the severity of the blisters. So yeah, looking forward to giving these a go. Gonna go downstairs into the gym, warm my hips up, get out and do this 30-minute run. I've had fucking lower back problems for as long as I can remember. So I work with Jeff Ross from Harrison Ross Physio, who is fucking great, and he just gave me a list of stuff that I need to be doing on a daily basis if I'm going to put myself and my body through this level of punishment, just to make sure that my back, my spine and my hips stay happy. And it all starts with activating those glute medius. So that's back in. On paper, that's scheduled as a recovery run, but it's probably worth me saying I fundamentally disagree with the concept of recovery runs, and use of language is important there. I refer to that as a recoverability run. So no run, no exercise, no training in its primary setting is going to expedite your recovery. It's really important that we communicate that the best thing you can do for recovery are recovery-based protocols. So like sleep, hydration, nutrition, rest, aimless play, massage, sauna, all those kind of things are going to help you recover. But owing to the specificity of the event, it's about repeatability. So doing like a short 3 mile run at a very, very relaxed pace isn't going to speed up how quick I recover, but is going to create just enough of a recovery demand that my body will become more effective at recovering over time. So replace recovery with recoverability, and think about the specificity of what you want to get from your training and if it's necessary. But for me, the best way to not have a recovery issue is to never have a work capacity issue. So, doing those things with a calculated and considered intelligent approach can definitely improve your recoverability, but don't expect them to improve your recovery. So don't look for validation just to train 7 days a week, because it ain't gonna happen. So now back in from the run, gonna get some food quickly on board. The first training session of the day, every day I like to do fasted, whether it's a run or a lifting session, I like to do that fasted. Predominantly because it saves time, if I'm really honest. But the secondary benefit of that is obviously I'm increasing and encouraging metabolic flexibility. So I'm improving my body's ability to utilize fat as a substrate, to utilize whatever glycogen I've got in my system from the night's sleep before and the meals before. I'm encouraging my body to do that. Now that's multifactorial. It's going to improve insulin sensitivity, metabolic partitioning, so on and so forth. But it's also, again, event specific, because on the Marathon des Sables, you are self-sufficient. You have to carry your own food, so you don't have the greatest capacity to carry fucking thousands and thousands and thousands of calories. So encouraging your body to be able to oxidize and utilize what it's got, being a bit of a camel, is going to be really advantageous. So nutrition wise, going to get back a quick shake in, then we'll get up to the office and get some work done. So I've got a trail half marathon in Hampstead Forest tomorrow, which is somewhere up the northeast near Darlington. So I'll run through a bit of packing, to be honest. First thing I'm excited about is I went for a little bit of a run up earlier today in these, and like I said, I'm not affiliated with any trainer company. I don't aspire to be, but these were fucking mega. No trainer's going to make you faster, but these definitely brought the RPE down in relation to the speeds that we were hitting. So those are going in for tomorrow, and these are likely to be the shoe that I use for the MDS. These are Hoka Challenger ATR 7s, the new one, which apparently only come in fucking offensive colours. But I'll then have these tailored so I can put my Desert Gators on the top. Those going in for tomorrow. In terms of layering systems, as far as I'm aware, it's going to fuck it down tomorrow. So base layer for me tends to be a Helly Hansen. Right? The benefit of these is they're relatively low cost, easier to find, and they are properly warm. The downside against like a merino is they fucking stink. Like you'll wear these like 5 or 10 times, and do be prepared for the fact no matter how well you wash them, you will smell like a fucking Ginster's beef pasty within a week. So taking one of those because they are mega warm. I just apologise to anyone running near me. 2 potential outcomes with regards to weather. It's either going to be really windy or really wet. If it's really windy, I fucking massively back this. This is a Jotner piece of kit, and it's literally just one of their wind layers. So I'll take that in the off chance that it is windier rather than rainy. If it is going to be raining, there's really good options on the market for like uber light Gore-Tex fucking running jackets. Bottom line up front, you get what you pay for. So if you are looking to penny pinch, you might be best off listening to someone else's opinion on this. But if you're willing and ready to invest in good kit that's going to make sure you're warm and wet, that you're warm and dry, then for me it was the Arc'teryx number. It's a good little bit of kit. Don't ask me what it's called because I've got no fucking idea. But if you go on their website, I'm sure you find it. And that's what I'll be using if it pisses down. Nutritionally, for a half, it's only going to be like maximum 2 hours on a trail. I don't really know what the elevation is going to be like. I don't really know what the terrain is going to be like. So I think it's probably going to be around about 2 hours. So I'll be looking to take in a litre of fluid. So for that, I will literally just use like a racing vest, which is Camelback. And then they've got like soft floppy bottles. Each one of those is 500 mils. So those will basically both get dealt with 1 per hour. And inside of that will be some electrolytes, which I'll be taking with, which is electrolytes and carbohydrates. So I'll do 30 grams of carbs an hour in each bottle. Then on top of that, a little bit of food. I'm currently trialing these. I'm not trialing, I'm actually using multiple times to great effect. Precision Fuel, when you're looking at the big picture, which for us is the marathon des Sables, you've really got to take into consideration how heavy is the food that you're going to be carrying, because you're going to be fucking carrying all of it. So people maybe who haven't done the event, like, oh, you should use gels. Well, take into consideration that's like 100 gram weight, and of that, probably 80 grams is water. So you're just carrying water around with you. It doesn't make any sense. Now, these guys have been very innovative, and they've basically taken all of the water out. So in here is 2 little gel cubes, and you're still getting your 30 grams of carbs, but it weighs 1/10 of the weight. It's very small, and they're really, really convenient. So I'll take a couple of those, and again, it'll be 1 packet per hour, which will take me to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Now, on the MDS, I won't have the luxury and liberty of taking in that much carbohydrate per hour, but the goal is to build my gut ability to tolerate food whilst under stress and duress. That's the goal. So it's a stepping stone to part of the bigger picture. For most guys, if you're running for 2 hours or less, you probably need about 30 to 60 grams of carbs. If you're going to be running over 3 or 4 hours, it can be 90 up to 100 grams of carbs, but you need to train the gut to do it. A lot of people get the shits because they don't, because they're a little bit impatient. So referring back to the point, those are getting packed and taken tomorrow. One question that I'm going to address, because it's probably the single most frequently asked question, annoyingly, on Instagram, is what day sack is that? And the one that you'll have seen in all the pictures with the bottle carriage on the front is literally just a Raid light, okay? Now, understand, I get no fucking kickbacks, nor do I want any from any manufacturers for any of the kit I use. I use it because it's fucking good. This is a pretty niche bit of kit. It's immensely lightweight, and it is designed for multi-day, like light and like sort of fast packing events like the Marathon des Sables. There's nothing to it. Literally, there's absolutely nothing to it. There is nothing in the way of like support, rigidity, or anything. It is designed for people who are carrying minimal, like skeletal kit, long distance at speed. That's absolutely what it's designed for. It is not designed for going for a fucking hike around the park with your missus on a Sunday. All right, you're gonna look like a bit of a dick. If you are into, you know, relatively extreme events and you are covering like 2, 3, 4 hours, like consecutive days, and you're into your ultra runs and that sort of stuff, from my personal opinion, it's a fucking really, really good bit of kit. You've obviously got that added front module, which you can add more fucking like scoff to, your easy accessibility of navigation kit, our phone, cameras, all that sort of good stuff. And its calling card, obviously, is the hydration system. The issue with like a Camelback, for an example, if you're gonna have one of those, that's mega if you're doing a single event. So if you're out for like 3, 4, 5 hours, because you're not gonna have to worry about refilling it. If you are doing, you know, multiple hours, like 6, 8, 10, fucking 30 hours in a oneer, you're gonna need to keep replenishing that. And if you've got to take the day sack off, unload everything, get the Camelback bladder out, fill that full of water, add electrolytes in, get it back on, then it's a little bit of a faff. These are as easy as you pull the bottle out, get it filled up, stick it back in again. They're also what's called a press to drink system. So as you'll see, the straw is somewhere near fucking orifice level. You put that in your grid, squeeze it, and then you are effectively hydrated. So that is that, although I will not be using it this weekend, because that would be like turning up to a fucking car meet in like a Formula 1 car. It would just be totally irrelevant and totally unnecessary and inappropriate. So that's going to get saved for the main event. But in the meantime, yeah, I'll be using that hydration pack. In terms of details on hydration, I use these. Again, same company that do these. When you're going to do an event of the magnitude of the Marathon des Sables, you're going to get very, very hot and sweaty. And sodium is massively misunderstood in terms of its benefit and advantage to athletes and just humans in general. We're led to believe we should only have a certain amount. And if you're sedentary, then that might be appropriate. That might be an accurate representation of you. But for me, I went and had a sweat test done. And we understood that I actually excrete 837 milligrams of sodium per litre, and I sweat about a litre every hour. So if you're using like off-the-shelf electrolyte tablets, they have 250 milligrams of sodium in. Now, quick math tells you you're going to be in a very aggressive deficit very, very quickly. And if you're running 250k in 55-degree heat, that's like goes from being an inconvenience to being life-threatening. So you need to ensure, or I need to ensure, not necessarily you, that you are getting enough sodium in. So I use 1500 milligrams of sodium before an event to sodium load, and then I have another tube somewhere, looks the same as this, but it's just a little bit less sodium per tablet, enduring to replenish and repopulate my sodium throughout. Sodium is one of the electrolyte minerals, and it controls everything from like cell function to cognition. It's really imperative when you are exercising, so don't overlook that. If you are going to get into the world of ultra racing, endurance events, so on and so forth. And I'm telling you this not because I'm Billy Big Bollocks and because I know this and I'm an expert, because I've recently found this out. It's been a very explorative and educational process for me so far. So I kind of want to pass that on, because one thing that I've noted, and it's actually become glaringly obvious, is that when you're in the ultra community, it welcomes its own, but they also do not really like outsiders, and it can be really quite hard to glean valuable, implementable information without being in there and being part of that clique. So if I can actually help educate and talk to anyone who's thinking about it by giving them information you wouldn't get unless you're on the inside, then hopefully that's helped someone. So yeah, that's precision hydration. Otherwise, it'll just be the standard kit and equipment. In terms of shorts, etc., I just use Lululemon, for being real honest. Sometimes through Dark, sometimes through Lululemon, whichever is clean on the day. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I'm of the belief that you can invest a lot of time, energy, and thought into having perfect kit and equipment. But if you ain't fucking fit and you ain't free of injuries, it doesn't matter anyway. And I know a lot of people who wear thousands of quid of gear and are built like a fucking melted Wellington boot. So make sure physical preparation and psychology comes first. Kit and equipment is a firm second place. That's pretty much my thought process on that. So I'll get all this packed up, and then that's me on the road up to Darlington for the big race tomorrow. Small race tomorrow.